over the patch notes really quick. Oh fuck! Well, I can't. On a problem, I can't play. I'm sorry, Damari. I already got the Franks. All right, so the patch notes. So, first things first is the things they're adding. This is just going over the archives and whatnot. Letting you guys know, of course, level 1's only available at the start. I don't know why they got to do that. They removed Dutch and Swedish, so I apologize for anyone that really liked playing their game in Dutch and Swedish. Disabled the Curse Legacy intro, which is fine because that shit was always loud. And they're doing an update to Larry's. Larry's, I've seen gameplay of the update. No, not Swedish. It's okay, it's okay. They're still German and Russia. We're good. But they're doing an update to Larry's, and I've seen gameplay of it. I gotta say, I really, 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 really like the new aesthetics. Like, the new Larry's, it feels like it has character. It's not one of those games where it's just like, it has character now. It's a lot darker. There's glowing and blinking signs now outside of rooms with generators in them. So it's a little bit easier for survivors to find them, which is good. But it's also, just a nice aesthetic to it. Like, it feels like a rundown hospital now instead of just, just some random building that's trying to look like a hospital. Yeah. No, don't worry. This is the only good thing. Hold on. Well, actually, there's this too. Okay, so the Gatekeeper emblem. So flatten the score value of all remaining generators. So now all generators are worth the same amount, 1 point per minute, regardless of the duration that they remain in the match. Also added an additional scoring for both gate remaining unopened at endgame. So now with Gatekeeper emblem, it's not just based on you have to have all gens. You have to have you have to have all 7 gens pumping for the first 9 minutes or some shit like that. No, now it's each one individually. So if you're sitting there and you're regressing one after another, good. If you got one that maybe goes but you keep the other 4 under control very well, you're still going to get rewarded for that. It's nice. You think all killers are getting reworked? So the ones that they have that we knew about was, of course, Doc. Obviously, the ones that they have that they've mentioned before in Q&As and shit like that and podcasts are, they want to do Bubba, which I agree with. Bubba needs his own perks. Bubba needs, or not perks, own add-ons, and Bubba just needs to be changed in general because he's just a meme for basement builds. That's about it. They're going to do something with Pig. They actually had a Pig main who has 3,000 some hours on Pig. His name is Psycho Scorpions. They're going to have him, when it's time for the Pig rework, they're going to have him go out there and give his opinion on Pig changes. So I'm hoping that'll go well, but at the same time, I like Scorpions. He's a good player. I don't like his personality. He's got one of those personalities that's just like, I'm not going to shit talk him. I personally I don't like him, but he is definitely the best person to talk to for the Pig changes, and I think it'll be better that they have someone like him talking about those changes. They're gonna keep doing many things with Legion throughout all these patches when they don't have full reworks. Like the Doctor one, I don't think there's anything going through with Legion that I've seen yet. So patches after that, it'll be, when they come out with killers, there'll be some more Legion changes. They're gonna eventually have to do a full rework, but they're working on other people since he had his technical air quotes rework already. Other than that, I really don't know anybody else that they need to rework. Maybe Trapper, but just something small, like let him start with all of his traps, because him running around picking up traps literally screws him over for most of the game, or at least the beginning. But we gotta see. I'm hoping that these changes, get better as they do these reworks. The dock changes, when I get into those, I will explain. There's only 2 parts of the dock changes that are bad. The rest of it is actually pretty good. Yeah, exactly. The Trapper, and it's a good buff. He shouldn't have to go pick up his traps. He should have his traps with him. Now, yes, you would change the bag add-ons, but the bag add-ons, if anything, just add more traps. Instead of, now he, instead of spawning with his 5 traps, now he spawns with 7, or now he spawns with 6. I think that's fine. Let him have more traps and he can set them up. Simple as that. And you can change then the I don't fucking know which one it is. His iridescent one where traps that are left open or traps that are left on the ground for after 30 seconds, a random one opens up. You could change that around now and you can make it more interesting. Like maybe when someone gets trapped, if they free themselves or they have a better chance of freeing themselves, but they're given the hindered status effect, I think that'd be pretty cool. Because if you're coming up to them and they just barely freed themselves, well now they're slowed, so you can still catch them. They're not going to just sprint burst off or whatever, you know, something like that. But anyways, getting away from that, let's get back to patch notes. The big one, Hex Ruin got nerfed. All generators affected by Hex Ruin. If a generator is not being worked on, it regresses at 100, 150, and 200% the normal regression rate. The hex persists as long as the hex totem is up. I have no idea if this is going to be like, on the survivor side, you get a notification that Hex Ruin is up, or if it's just one you have to like find and figure out. But if people are rushing gens, it's not going to do anything. It would be fine as a perk if it was a separate perk and it wasn't a hex. It'd be fine. Because when you put it at 200%, let's say you have it tier 3 and you're running Ruin, okay? So for 4 seconds of a survivor, or for 2 seconds of a survivor working on a gen, it takes 4 seconds now for it to regress back to, say, 0. Say they worked on it for 2 seconds from 0 and got it up. Now it's going to take 4 seconds for it to regress back to 0. Because right now the regression rate is 4 times what the survivors work on. And it's not great. It might not be that bad. I have not played it, obviously. Otherwise I'd be on PTB right now testing this shit with you guys. But I'm hoping that it's not that bad, or they do something. Like, just take it off of a hex perk. I don't know. Can't pressure out the whole map to make use of the new Ruin. Exactly. Now for ones like Nurse, Spirit, Wraith, actually, Freddy, like, the new Ruin would actually be fine with Pop. They could pressure it, but they have teleports, they have dashes, or whatever the fuck you want to call the haunting. You know, they got ways to get around the map. Even Hag could make pretty good use of it with her traps. But the other killers, like, for a good example, Legion. Legion can't pressure big maps. Yeah, can't pop Ruin gens. Yeah. Gens are gonna fly though. Rainbow maps can now track chests if revealed by the perk that shows chests. Detective's Hunch. That already should have been there. Ruin gens, they're already regressing. Exactly. Yeah, they kind of overlap, so it wouldn't even be that good. Which Pop is just better. For Oni, they gave him back his turn limitation, so now he can't just 180 around corners like he used to. But now he can, like, I think it's a 90-degree angle that he can reach. So it's not bad. I don't care for Oni at all, so this doesn't affect me. It doesn't matter to me. But also, he definitely didn't deserve to be gutted like he did before. And then Doctor. So they removed the treatment mode and the static field. He will no longer need to switch stances to use shock therapy or his regular attack. Shock therapy is now, I believe, on a... It's a mouse 2, and his shock blast is a left shift. So, the new ability, Static Blast. Secondary power. So the basics of that is whatever survivors are in your terror radius, he charges up and he slows himself by... Oh. He's charging movement speed to 67% from 70% normal. Yeah, okay, so it's 67%. He slows himself while he's charging it. Then he releases the shock in his terror radius, and everybody hit by it screams out and gets affected with madness. It's got a 1-minute cooldown, which is very long, but it's supposed to be similar to how his old static field was in the sense of finding people. That's just meant to be finding people, and that's about it. Which 1 minute is definitely fine for that. You don't need to increase that, or decrease it, or make it come up faster, because at that point then he's going to be finding everybody all the time. He's just going to be annoying to fight because you're not going to get anything done. You're just always going to be tier 3 if it was like a 30-second cooldown or anything like that. So that's fine. The issue is the shock therapy. It's a mouse button 2. It's a mouse 2. You zap. It's a longer range, which is good. The base range, the base range right here, it's increased by 10%, which is actually very, very significant from the gameplay I've seen. But it's added a 3-second cooldown to shock therapy. So before, the time of him like right now, the time of him shocking and then switching over and then being able to hit is, I think, 1 second, 1.5 maybe. Well, now it takes 1.5 seconds for the shock when it goes out to actually hit them. That's going to be changed though because that was unintended. It's supposed to be 1 second after he releases the shock, but it takes him 3 seconds of him just sitting there before he can swing and hit. Now, during this time, by the time he can hit, is about the same time that a survivor could drop a pallet. So he has no more anti-loop. He has anti-loop. It's very, very difficult to use now. Like, unless you main Doc, it's going to take a while to get used to. And even Doc mains are not happy. Like, Archdruid Dre is not happy with it, but he's getting used to it, he said. This, though, they already made an announcement. This is going to be changed. Like, they're going to be reducing this number. I'm hoping they reduce it to 1.5. Because 1.5 means that it's not the 1 second that it used to be, but it gives you a half second more. So it still slows you down a little bit, so you can't, like, shock someone and then immediately come swinging around the corner. You can shock them, and you can maybe get a little bit of a lunge, but you can't get the full lunge like you can with the Doc now. But Doc now, you have to be really, really good to do it. That's why I suck with him. Otherwise, trust me, if I had put more time into Doc, you'd be watching me playing Doc right now. Probably still playing Doc in Legion, but so besides this little 3 second thing, honest, and the 1.5 seconds on the shock, it's fine. Like, this is overall a buff to him. This all got some got changed, some got taken away, like Madness regardless. Madness regresses while outside the terror radius and does not regress while inside it. So it's kind of like how his old static field was. If he has a static field out, you gain Madness, and it's not going to go down. Except you're not going to gain it you're not going to gain it while in his terror radius, but you're not going to regress. So that's good. You got to, like, Doc still has that scary presence, which is nice, because he should have that mental presence. A lot of this is still, like, it just got reworded for shock therapy or shock blast, considerably increased charge time and attack range. Like, that, there's no point in that. Some of this stuff is just dumb. Like, the slightly increased charge time, one thing that I can tell you this, if anybody plans on playing Doc, you never want any add-ons that's going to increase your shock time, because it makes the loops harder to do. Like, you're not going to catch people. You're just not. I tried it for a while, and even though I'm not the best Doc, and I'm not a great Doc, I noticed once I took off just the Moldy Electrode, which was what I was running for a while, once I took that off and just started running, like, Restraint and Obedience or Calm, like that kind of stuff, it's very easy to or it's easier to get people on loops than it is to do it with a longer charge time, especially with the slow right now. Now he's going to be base 115, which is fine, but you still don't want it. You still don't want the increased time. So the other thing is they added the scoring event to Tranquilize for 300 blood points for hitting survivors with Static Blast, which is awesome. Doc is still going to be the king of deviousness. And they introduced, I didn't see if it's in here. Might be, I think it's later on. Well, they added in, oh no, it's right here. Scrap Tape. So they changed it to Iridescent Queen. Rarity, and the rarity changed from uncommon to ultra rare. So this is the other iridescent add-on for him. And whenever you hit a survivor with a shock therapy or static blast, they acquire lingering static charge. If a survivor with static charge is within 4 meters of another survivor, the survivor receives a shock with identical effects and shock as the shock therapy and static blast. So you static blast somebody or you shock therapy someone, and while you're kicking the pallet, they run past someone else who maybe is working on a gen or who is maybe cleansing a totem, something like that. Because they ran past them and they're within 4 meters, now they scream out and they start getting the other, whatever kind of madness effects you got in here, whether it be the red stain or... Oh, hi, Generic Gamer Girl. Going over the patch notes. Also, Obedience. Now, skill checks have a considerable chance to turn counterclockwise. So imagine this spreading around to people. This is actually, this sounds fun, honestly. Like, from a survivor and a killer point of view, this sounds like this would be fun. So combine that with like Iridescent Queen and everyone's got reverse skill checks. Gens are gonna be just popping left and right and just regressing. It'd be a fun time. It'd make impossible skill checks even more impossible. Which, that's a build I definitely want to do with Doc. Right, yeah. They actually, like, they got the add-ons right. They're interesting. They got the Iridescent one. Like, I love the idea of this. Because they're spreading the madness, and that's the point of Doc. Just spread the madness around. So Static Blast, I just, explained it. But it takes 2 seconds to activate, so it is a long charge time. And has a 60-second cooldown. Yes. So, it's a little bit of a charge time. But one thing that I want to point out that I thought of the first time I heard this, it said about Ruin, but let's see how it actually plays. Yeah, it's going to be kind of sad, but I'm already kind of preparing myself. I'm trying to work with builds without Ruin because I've realized that I kind of had it a little bit, I'm not going to say a crutch because it's not really that big of a crutch considering how gen speeds are in general, but I want to get used to not having to use it and not rely on it, and it is a little bit harder considering, I'm not playing someone with like counter looping abilities. Like if I was doing this with not necessarily Clown, but like Clown, Freddy, Spirit, Nurse, Wraith even, or Doc, it's a little bit more possible, and Huntress of course, because they have all ways to counter loops, whereas Legion, you got to kind of just force the pallets down, which is why I'm taking Brutal Strength now. And if I'm not taking Brutal Strength, then I replace it with Barbecue and I take Iridescent Button. So as long as I can just keep clearing pallets, I think Legion will be fine in that sense. Probably could run Play with Your Food realistically, but I'm kind of iffy on it with Legion. I don't know. It feels like kind of a waste because if they're healing so much, you're going to keep hitting, you're going to keep losing tokens, and one may be enough to counter a loop, yes, but I don't know. There's just something that it doesn't appeal to me as much. I know some people love it, and it's definitely really good. I'm not going to say that it's not, but it's still just one of those things. So the other thing too, when they go up in Madness, that's when they will reveal their location. So Madness 1, 2, and 3. That's when they'll do that. Otherwise, normally you'll get a laugh, and like Shock Therapy does not make it makes them scream, but it doesn't like give you the reveal like Static Blast does. Static Blast is meant for the reveal. Shock Therapy is meant for more counter looping or increasing madness. Yeah, they scream and give away their location if their madness level increases. So if you Static Blast someone and their madness level doesn't increase, you'll hear a laugh, which means that, hey, you found someone. But if their madness doesn't increase, you don't see them. So it's still going to be really good to run. I don't even know if they have it up here, but it's going to be really good to run Restraint. Because Restraint reveals them when they're shocked by either Static Blast or Shock Therapy. So that'll still probably be better to run. The other thing with Doc that I thought of when I saw this whole Static Blast thing is run it with Whispers. Because the moment Whispers activates, you keep moving around and then you start charging it up and you launch it, and it's one way to find them, but it's another way to guarantee your Static Blast hits someone each time instead of just trying to kind of guess, but also you gotta kind of have a little bit more awareness. This way you get an easier time of hitting people. It's nice. The snap out of it, they kind of fucked this over. So missing a skill check will regress the progression bar a fourth instead of all the way. Not terrible. You can live with it. Not terrible, but kind of eh. Skill checks will trigger at every quadrant of the progress bar instead of randomly, like they did before, which I liked. And they triggered randomly based on your madness too. Releasing the snap out of it action will keep the progression made instead of resetting. That's stupid. That's really fucking stupid. It should have to reset. Yeah, 4 skill checks. Is it that rough for survivors to hit skill checks? Because my 2 earlier games say that they can hit skill checks fucking fine. Oh, and snapping out of it sends survivors from to Madness tier 1 instead of tier 2. So yeah, you get 2 free tiers. And I can tell you this, the way devs think about it is, this is what the devs were thinking when they did this. So they go to tier 1, but now you get 2 more tiers that you have to give them. But hey, that's 2 more times that they reveal themselves. It's not how it works, devs. It's not what we want. We want people going insane. We want the Doctor literally, like, Doctor is supposed to be the actual mind game. Yeah, no, they 100%, Matt, you hit it on the head. They are babying survivors with the Doctor changes. But overall, ignoring that part, Doc's still fine. Like, honestly, like I said, besides that 3-second thing, the 1.5-second thing, this is still going to be a good Doc. This is still going to be an overall buff. It's just going to be a little more annoying. So the theater map, the look and feel is definitely a lot better, but he's fun to play as and against now. No. According to DBD developers, they say Doc is irritating and frustrating to go against right now, which is why these changes are happening, which is just bullshit. I mean, I'm not a fan of fighting a Doc, but it's also kind of fun. So they changed the layout, make it a little more rectangular than like a square, which I guess is fine. Longer corridors. They say they hid totems better, but I'll be honest, I'm calling bullshit right away because I don't think Behavior actually knows how to hide totems. Because if you can still spawn and find a totem like 2 feet around the corner, that's not a hidden totem. It's got to be like on the new Batum. The new Batums are great because there's so many bushes where unless you're going to walk into that pocket, you're not going to probably see the totem from any other angle. Balance the distribution of safety pallets. There now are actually God pallets in Larry's where it's down like hallways and there's no doors leading to it. So you just drop the pallet and you get God pallets now because there's no killer shack. They don't need God pallets. They really don't. People just need to learn how to loop. Totem spots are bad. Totem spots are bad. Totem spots are shit. That's why at this point, like, why even run a totem? Balance the distribution of hooks. This is actually fine. From the gameplay I saw, hooks are actually a lot easier to get to for the most part. They're not closer, but they're more convenient for just about anywhere. Like if you down someone, you got 2 or 3 hooks that you can make fairly easily, which is good. Because this way, if you use too many hooks in one area, you can still at least make it to 1. Instead of some maps like Temple of Purgation where it feels like there's never any fucking hooks. And then balance the distribution of safety vaults. So one that I want to point out that I saw was by the library. So normally they got the little desk area where you got the window that leads in to the desk and then you got another vault right after that. So it's a double vault. And then you go around the corner and it leads to either the basement or it's just empty space in the library. So there's 2 ways that can spawn now. Instead of having the window either open or not, and there always being a vault, now if the window is open, there is no vault. So killers can follow all the way through or mind game around. But if there's a vault there, the window is closed. I like that change. It keeps survivors from vaulting and then vaulting. This way killers can't catch up if they even begin the initial vault, or it keeps it so there's less of a easy mind game too for killers, because it was a good spot and a bad spot for survivors depending on how they played it and how the killer played it. Now it's a very fair spot. You just have to take advantage of it. If it spawns with the window or if it spawns without the window, you got to be aware of how you need to play that loop. And this way, killers can't look in through the window and watch them vault and then just know which way to go. So you actually have to be listening, paying attention, which is the point. Progress bars for killer powers when I was showing killer's power icon. I haven't really seen much of that UI. They say it's an improvement. Okay, we'll have to see. Didn't really pay that much attention to that, but it seemed pretty solid. It just seemed a little more bold. That's really all I seen, because I only watched the Doc's gameplay, so it just seemed a little more apparent. So it's a little bit easier to tell when shit's full, when shit's half full, stuff like that. Oh yeah, when a tome is mastered, the level of navigation becomes golden. Just some random quality of life changes. Which this kind of stuff, I mean, yeah, it's nice to have, you know, all this stuff in there, but like besides the dock changes and the Larrys, which I get, you know, they gave us 2 reworks, which is big, and they gave us 1 huge ass nerf with Ruin, because fuck us. Like, give us some balance or changes to killers. Like, and to get you guys are fixing issues. This game has too many issues for you guys to fix in like 3 patch notes. So give us some changes to killers. Give Legion a random buff. Give Pig a buff. Give Bubba some love. Just give some love out there. Don't just give it all to Doc and Larry's. And then these are still some issues going around, so they gotta figure out this. Right now, there's pallets that Legion can't even frenzy fault on Larry's, which, oh, I'm not even want to get to that. Yeah, there's a lot of shit that's going on, but it's a PTB, so this stuff I take it with a grain of salt anyway. This whole patch note though, I'd give it, honestly, it's more like a 7 out of 10. I think they, for the most part, nailed it, but they fucked up on Doc a little bit. And the Ruin was not needed. They should have just understood, hey, Ruins ran at 80% of games at red ranks. Why don't we fix gen speeds so they don't need to run the perk instead of nerfing the perk? But it's never Survivor's fault. No, Survivors have it way too hard with holding M1. Dear God, let's not give them anything hard to do. I don't want to play Plague. Fuck Wraith. Give us a 3-second fatigue again. Yeah, exactly. Like, if they would have just said, like, oh, Legion's got a 3-second fatigue in this patch, fuck it. I would have been ecstatic. That would have been a huge ass buff. Those are bad at balance, but so good in the story and game design. I don't get that too. I still don't believe it's the same devs because like the story behind all these killers, minus the licensed ones because they have their own story, is amazing. I love the stories and they're actually interesting. The archives and the way they did the archives and the challenges, besides this bullshit in here, mainly these two, and the Rift, like the rewards are great. They're actually giving us good challenges. They're giving us good rewards too. And all these, like these are all great. I love this. This is what I want to see more from them, but I also want to see some good fucking balancing. I don't want a game that has a good story to it, but shit gameplay. I want good gameplay and a good story. And they got the story down. They haven't really fucked up on any storytelling, but they fuck up almost every patch note somehow. At least this one, they're fixing it ahead of time before waiting for it to be like 3 days or so to come out. I think that's what it was with the Legions update. Because when they reworked him, they had to change him like 2 or 3 extra times on the way out. Or with the Oni update with Nemesis, they had to change fucking Legion again